sort of similar to what we've heard from the other. Me to know.
So I'm quite lost here.
Do you have confidence in what to do, and where is it that you're looking for support? Because it can sort of point you to those areas.
Okay. I'm actually new to the release writing and all this. I did a newspaper release course, I think 2 weeks ago. Today is media. So I was wondering what is the difference between both?
Oh, press release and media release?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, basically, I'm going to explain.
That's fine. So going in as a complete beginner, open to all the ideas. Great. Next I've got Sari, and then after from, I think we've just got Hasmia, Karia, and Hazika. So Sari,
hi.
would you like to go?
I just joined in also. Try to, I think because of the link just now. So I think good morning. Also, as Faith mentioned just now, I'm also well, I'm in PRO also, right? But in terms of writing, I learned it from my colleague, and since I still need to learn more about how to do the press release, I mean, not much different from what Fitz just made. Okay, thank you.
So that was Sari. We had. Next is.
Is it me now?
Yes.
Okay, hi, good morning. Yeah, everybody. My name is Dan Kunashka from Religious Affairs. Firstly, as what my colleague told Nazmi, we have the same. We were in the same department. I just want to add some. Our department, we sometimes check all the press release from other PRO practitioner from other departments. So we need to check the press release, what are the before they send to the media. Mostly our press release translated by the media itself, and sometimes we need it will be translated by our officer.
Got it. Okay, so you're also quite new to the world of press release writing.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. That's fine. Thank you. So next is, because I went out of order there a bit. So next is Karia.
Hello, good morning.
Hi.
Okay, so for me, I'm from area from, I guess. So for me, my role in the press release net as well as Royal Brunei Armed Force will also help with the transparency on if it's available. I engage in social media presence mostly. So when it comes to press release writing, it's quite new. And I hope I can learn how to properly write, to structure it well by this class.
Lovely, thank you.
Yes.
So next we have Hashima. Hashima?
Morning.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi there.
Okay. Hi, I'm Shima from Fisheries Department. My background is IT. I never do press release before. This is my first time, and then I joined this class because I start apa nih? I start to do press giving press
Yep.
release.
Okay, so just also like your colleagues keen to learn more about how to approach it. Good. Okay. I think we've just got two people left. So next is Hazika and then Rinawati.
Good morning.
Hi there.
I'm Hazika. I apprentice animation. I have a colleague with Dankush and Rashida as well as Nazmi. As an apprentice, I'm still learning about communication design. So basically, press release is something new. I'm not sure how to structure it or to attract people how to write press releases, but I'm looking forward to learn about.
Thank you. And last but not least is Rinawati.
Hi, good morning.
Hi there.
My name is Rinawati. Call me Rina.
Thank you.
Currently, I'm working with the Department of Fisheries and looking after public relation and IT.
Yep.
I just want to improve my writing skill, especially writing. Yeah.
The meeting.
Yeah, the meeting. And
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Improvement. Okay, good. All right. Look, that gives me a good idea of. So just quickly, I'm just going to backtrack one or two slides just with a little bit of housekeeping. So I understand that if you have unstable internet, you might need to keep your video off and see faces thinking and, you know, talking, smiling, all the rest. But if you can't, once again, I understand. And here's our schedule for today. So 2 short breaks, 1 hour lunch break, and we will have 30 minutes writing time. So that will give you a chance to actually co-author a piece of writing. And this is me. I've been presenting here for about 15 years. I started out in journalism, actually, in lifestyle journalism. And I don't know if you guys, if anyone here is one of the media outlets I worked at is because I was junior and I used to sit next to the fax machine and all day paper would pour off that machine and it would be caught in a box. And our job, you know, myself and the other junior, our job is to sift through all those press releases and pick the most interesting ones. And, you know, today we would get maybe 50 press releases in a day and we would have space to talk about 2 of them on that news program. So even then, there was a lot of pressure on PR practitioners to write a really interesting press release. And yeah, we've just demonstrated this. A mix of functions we'll be using to do both solo, pair and group work. We've just done our priorities for today. And here's an overview of what we're going to cover. Now, all of you will have received the course notes, I understand. Yeah, so you've got a PDF. What you'll need to have is have the PDF open so that you kind of need a blank Word document. If I am speaking too fast, or if you didn't, please just put up and say, you know, can I explain this again? Things that we're going to discuss today are the areas that you would think about and write and review a press release, so from start to finish. So step one is to really think of the news angle. It always has to be new. That's the thing about news. And from what I noticed, you're actually all doing that well. Your news is being released pretty much as it comes out, and this is something that doesn't happen in corporations. So sometimes corporations have a new product that comes out, but the press release doesn't come out till 2 months later because they have to have their lawyers look at it and, multiple layers of management. And now then it's not news. The next thing we're going to do is planning. So anything that you're writing about, whether it's agriculture or religious affairs or education, you have all these ideas. Has time to know about a few of them. So we're going to look at a planning tool to get those out there in writing. Part 3 of the workshop, we're going to look at the structure of a press release. And I'm pretty sure, looking at what you've submitted, so some of the press releases aren't quite the structure that I, understand to be best practice. But a lot of them, even when you're writing in Malaysian, seem to follow this structure. So that's good. And the beautiful thing is that these first 3 steps are techniques that you can replicate whether or not you're strong in English writing. Part 4 of the workshop, we're going to fix a couple of common mistakes that native and non-native speakers make in their writing. So things that can make writing fluffy or unclear or even incorrect. Once the press release goes out into the world, how else is it going to be promoted? So it's going to live on a particular portal, somewhere, probably on your website, but also it'll get published on the news, and you then want to share it out as much as possible. I just had a question from Faith about the notes. I can upload that to the chat in just a moment. But first, I'd like everyone, we're going to just start with news. The first thing is that we want to really think of the press release as being news, and news is something that people get excited about, so when most of us wake up in the morning and we pick up our phones or our devices, or maybe we even have a print newspaper, and we look at what's happened in the world overnight. Is there still a war in the Ukraine? Oh, thank you so much, Nazmi, really appreciate that. Nazmi's just uploaded that to the chat. Is there still a war on? What have these crazy celebrities done? Has my favourite football team won? And so news is what gets us talking. And so even in government, where part of the reason you send news is like this official paper trail of activities that the government has done. So we've awarded these prizes, or we've built this building, or we've opened this hospital. So there's a certain, as a government, a lot of what you do is going to be a form of record keeping. But at the same time, it's an opportunity to get the public excited about these wonderful things happening in their town. So we must always remember that gossip factor of news. Something exciting happens and people want to talk about it. So just quickly, I'd love you to note, what is your top news story this week? This was my biggest surprise after weeks of worrying about the Ukraine. Suddenly Elon Musk comes out of the blue and decides to buy Twitter and take it private. So that has massive implications for freedom of speech, democracy, media ownership. It has massive implications. So I've picked him as my top news story, but I'd love you to submit in the chat your top news story for this week. And I'll just give you a few moments to do that. Amber Heard Yes. I have teenage children, and they were quite fascinated by that one as well. So I'd love to hear from a few others if you can write in the chat. What was a news story that made you click on a headline this week or talk to someone about it? Oh, right. Is that new, is it, Faith, that 30 people will be allowed? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, so you've had a bit of a strict
Yeah,
lockdown, have you?
about it. Well, it's an early phase of the pandemic right now, so
Yeah.
less restrictions. Yeah, so
That's
I think
great.
people are looking forward for her area.
Yeah, lovely. And Nazmi, you've written the same. Flash flooding, yeah, there's always concerning news as well.
Yeah, that one is recently, which is went viral in our circles that regarding our housing area. So it's being a topic in the office also. So I think that's also the one I wanted to share also in the media press release, just how to. I mean, I wanted to ask you, Stephanie, how we are going to tell the public about the viral things through the media.
Yes.
I mean, how are we going to, that's the things, or one of the things I wanted to put.
Right. So that is actually something that what I'm going to do later today, I'll think of the best time to add this content is I think we need to have a 20-minute discussion on crisis control. So crisis communications. So I do actually have some material on that, but I think in government, all of you need to be prepared for bad news to happen. So news that the government is not, is not pleased that this news happened. So what do you do? So leave that one with me. You've raised a really valuable point, and I will try to. I'll try to find this. In fact, this content might almost be more relevant to you than the section on cross-promoting. In fact, can I get a quick show of hands? How many people would be very interested to know about crisis control, like a crisis plan? And so I can see a few raised hands lots of icons there. Give you time to do that. And how many people? Okay, so you can put your hand down. Does everyone know how to do that? To lower your hand. Yeah, great. And how many people would be more interested in social media? Sorry, so we kind of need to do both. Rinawati, Nazmi, so a little bit of both. Okay, leave it with me. I'll do, so both. All right, leave it with me and I'll see what I can squeeze in. Okay, but what we're going to do now is that we're going to look at the essential ingredients of news. So this is not included in your workbooks. I've actually left the list deliberately blank so that you can write them down, because I believe in eye, hand, brain, memory, recall. So there are 8 ingredients of news, and a really good press release will combine at least 2, if not 3 of these ingredients. So it's impossible to have all 8 of these, but these are just different options that you can use at different times. Now, your press release always has to be timely. And as mentioned, that's something I noticed you were doing, is that the news always has to be new. It has to be something that happened today, this week, last week. If the news happened more than a week or two ago, then you have to still force a today angle. So let's say a new hospital was opened 2 months ago, you forgot to send out a press release. So what do you say today? You don't say a new hospital opened 2 months ago. You say, since the new hospital opened 2 months ago, it has served 2,000 patients. So you always want to find the angle. What is happening today in this news? Why is your reader reading about it now? And that happens. Sometimes the release of the news gets delayed for some reason or other. So you have to go looking for another angle. Okay, so the other angles are, optional, and what we're going to do at the end of this list is we're going to look at some examples. Now, they are mostly Australian examples, so bear with me on that one. In fact, they're all Australian examples, but I can kind of share with you how it might apply to your setting. So the next one is how the news might directly affect your readers. So, for example, if there are changes in policy or increase in fees for a particular service, or something good like new housing or flood response, well, that's an impact angle. So the people that are being impacted are the target readers here. Another angle is that you can use is conflict. This may not fit with your organizational style, but sometimes you can create a news story about, young versus old, downturn to upturn. So anytime there's a sense of change, you get the good ingredients of a story. Technique number 4 is simply relevance. So if you know that your readers are currently worried, they're currently happy about COVID restrictions to those other general in your society. So some news is only going to be of interest to people very, very close to that world. And again, I'll show you some examples of how organizations have tailored their press releases to different areas, I guess. Novelty, this can be a fun one. This is a useful technique for those good news stories. So, the awards, the surprises, the monkeys that hopped across the street and ran into town hall, those cute stories. So you can really talk up the novelty factor. Significance, obviously, anytime there are awards won or extremes or longest marathon or first time for this type of person to achieve that type of challenge, that would be a significance angle. And very finally, human interest. So, quite often I saw some of your stories were about awards, people that received awards, or I think there was one about the funding for the Islamic festival. And so in those you can sort of talk about, these people's lives a little bit, what are they, just add more detail and description. So with awards, it might be someone who had a disadvantage and they overcame adversity and they were the first in their family or their town or whatever to, achieve some kind of, study qualification or something else. So those are the 8 angles. Now we're going to have a look at some examples. Now, the beautiful thing is that the way press releases are structured, and you're going to learn this today too, is all the essential news is in the first paragraph. So I'm just literally going to show you the first paragraph of a couple of these news stories. Okay, so the first one is an example of something that was timely. So this this tourism boost came out last year just after the lockdowns eased up. So right where you guys are now, that you're now allowed to have 30 people in your homes, this was when the New South Wales government, that's our state here in Sydney, decided to launch a campaign to encourage people to travel again. Just give you a moment to read that. Okay, so that is an example of a timely press release. Here is one, this is one that's a little bit older now, and you can submit your response. I'm going to ask you a question in a minute. You can write your response in the chat. So this is a story about alcohol policy, where almost 10 years ago now, the government decided to limit the availability of alcohol in certain parts of the city to stop violence. So with this scorecard coming out, what types of organisations do you think will be impacted by this announcement? You can write this in the chat. Which organisations will be impacted by this announcement? Yeah, so very much, nightlife was very much impacted by this. So businesses, restaurants, pubs, clubs, and places like that were very much impacted because some areas had a really bad record for alcohol-related violence. Here's one about here's one that shows conflict. What are some words that you see in this opening paragraph that are a little bit emotional, that seem to kind of show, so this is two political parties. I don't know if you know that in Australia we have Labor versus Liberal. We have an election coming up. And so what must have been happening is there was probably an election coming up, and a Liberal minister is saying something about Labor. What words in here can you see are a little bit emotional, that kind of show that they're a little bit aggressive, even attacking? That's right, yeah. Yeah, and we're fixing it, we're putting a stop to it, we're amending it, overinvested, massive increases. Very subjective. I don't recommend writing in this way, but it does demonstrate how certain agents in the community can kind of get a little sense of controversy going. Okay, here is one. Here is a press release that is going to be relevant to a certain sector of the community. Who is this press release relevant to? You can pop your answer in the chat. But, which individuals in Australia is this relevant to? Yep, good. So people with the health problems, yes, hospitals as well, good ones to set in, because they'll be taking these people. But yes, people above 45, and that's quite a large number, 1 million people. That's about, 5% of our population. So a lot of different people also, and Tasmania and Victoria, 2 states in Australia, it's also very relevant to them because they're named as having a really, some really poor health, heart health. Okay, so here's an example of, so Rabobank is a regional bank in Australia that has a lot of farmers among its client base. And each year they run a survey. They actually do a lot of campaigns to raise awareness of the needs of the agricultural sector. So what they did was they ran this survey, but they sent it out to each of Australia's seven states with a slightly different angle. This is a couple of years ago. So the heading says, recent rain gives New South Wales farmer confidence a boost, a nudge, but sentiment remains subdued as the drought wears on. So notice that the angle in New South Wales is that we've had some rain. As you know, Australia is very dry. Now let's look at what they wrote for Victoria. So it says, dry saps sentiment in Victoria's agricultural sector, that's ag is short for agriculture, with dairy the hardest hit. So you can see here the focus is different. There hasn't been any rain. The drought is still very, very concerning, and farmers are very concerned about their near future. So can everyone see how the report was, the press release, just at the opening 2 paragraphs would have been tailored to those different regions, and then the media organisations find a local angle to write about, and what they do, and what kind of packages they offer for their customers. It's about their survey, and that's what's so important in marketing, is sometimes to take the emphasis off your own organisation and to talk about the people that you're trying to serve. Notice that all the examples I've showed you so far, so they're examples of, proximity or relevance, impact, things like that, but they're also timely. So all of the examples we've shown so far are they have the word today, yesterday, or this week. They're all very current. The next one is novelty. So take a moment to read this and submit in the chat what details of this forest cleanup are a bit odd and unusual. So what are some, I guess, strange factors about this cleanup day? So what are some unusual details? What are some things you might not expect to normally find in a state forest? Cars, good. Yeah, all the rubbish. Mattresses, couches, scrap metal. So instead of saying blah, 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 organisation held a forestry cleanup with 400 people on the weekend, we netted 2.5 tonnes of rubbish. It opens with the details that add to the story, that make us think, how awful these things are in the forest, and how great is it that this organisation has cleaned it up. Significance, so as mentioned, that is, extremes, firsts, wins, 10th highest, world's top 50, all of those things are significance. And any financial figure is always going to give a sense of significance. So here's a story about the Sydney Opera House's 40th anniversary. where Deloitte has gone and calculated that it contributes 775 million to the Australian economy each year, and its total value is 4.6 billion, which seems kind of low to me, but here you go. So that is significance. A couple more examples, and then I'll get you to have a think about some news angles in your world. Okay, so here is a cute little human interest story. So this is obviously from a private school. And they've clearly created what is called a bit of a media stunt. So if you haven't heard that term before, hands up if you've heard that term before. No? Yep, Nazmi, yep, a couple of you. Good. So Nazmi, what do you understand about a media stunt? What are some, perhaps experiences that you've had with that?
Well, it depends. It's kind of like a strategy to secretly promote, subtly promote the product or service.
Yeah, that's right. Good. Because sometimes just the new product or the action or whatever itself isn't that exciting. So the organisation creates a special event where they invite the media and they give away free bags of stuff, and they have a band and, celebrity guests. And so they turn it into an event that is suddenly now worthwhile for the media to come and attend and photograph and write a story on. So here, this school has clearly decided to make a bit of a stunt out of this contact with the International Space Station. And you can see, so year 5 students, they're, about 11 years old. So it's a really cute age. They're kind of on that verge of becoming teenagers. They're not little kids anymore. And you can just imagine all the questions they would have asked the astronauts. And so that is, so those are the angles. And so what I'm going to get you to do in a minute is I'm going to get you to do 2 things, and I'll screen share so that you can see the exercise. But in exercise 1A, let's just quickly do this now. What I'd like you to do is, first of all, this is exercise 1B. So first of all, I'd like you to write down 5 recent consumer trends, industry changes or other general news that affects your organisation. So these are, remember, those things that you were talking about earlier today as news that got you talking this week, whether it's celebrities or the government or a natural disaster. So what are some things happening in your company or your sector that people are talking about? So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to write those down. And I'd love to see a couple of those shared in the chat. so I'm just going to read Faith. Thank you. Children's vaccine, rainy season again, back to school. Okay, good. So hopefully all of you have just a short list of sort of things that you know people are going to be thinking about, especially in your sector, and so you can tie your news into those themes. Upcoming religious festivals, great. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start planning one of your press releases. Now, the suggestions I have here are very corporate leadership report. Probably those aren't going to relate to you. So, like, so from the examples that I saw, perhaps support offered to people in need. So I noticed a few things like that. Education achievement awards. And I'm sure being in government, there are always going to be things like schools and other, initiatives that have been agreed or whatever. So those are just a couple of suggestions. But whatever the news is, what I want you to do is just write a couple of those 8 news angles that you could talk about. So if it's a new hospital, is there a significance angle? Is it the biggest in Brunei, or it caters exclusively to a certain type of health condition? So have a think about whatever it is that you're planning to write about, what are the angles that you could sort of develop? And again, I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. And of course, if anyone is not sure that they're doing the right thing and you have questions, either pop those in the chat or unmute yourself and ask those. I see a couple of other names on board now, NH and MAS. So Faith, do you want to unmute yourself and explain your question a little bit?
Yeah, just now we wrote down topics that we mentioned or the issues. Now, the expectation is to write about it.
What we're going to do is plan the news angle. So let's say thinking of a couple of news releases you might do, what are the angles you might weave into them? So we're just still thinking very broadly about, very, very high level about what you might need to do. And what you'll later do is, out of those 4 ideas you've generated, you're going to pick one and you're going to write about it in more detail. Okay. Thank you. Now, just checking also that everyone's clear on what we're doing. If you joined the call a little bit later this morning, once again, hopefully you all have your PDFs, and I can upload those to
Stephanie.
Yes. Yep.
For the exercise 1C is that we have to find which angle you are. I mean, from the 8 angle, the ingredients, right? What do you mean for the exercise 1C,
Yes.
right? The
Yes.
topics that wanted to write about. So then from that one, from the angle we choose, then we are going to elaborate
Yes, that's
further.
right.
Is that what you mean?
We're going to put down 4 ideas, but we won't have time to write 4 press releases today. But out of those 4 ideas that you've written, later on you'll be creating a proper press release out of those. Okay. And so just once again, if you joined the course late, what we're doing is getting a high-level look at the first place to start when you're writing your press release, and that first place really is to talk about what is the news and how can we make this relevant to our readers. What are they going to be excited about, concerned about? Because every time we send out a press release, you want to assume that your reader somewhere is sitting there thinking, so what? Why is this important? Why am I reading this today? Why is this better than any other similar initiative like this? So yeah, you have to work hard with your words to make sure it really is interesting. Okay, so I'd love to see a couple of those possible news stories that you'll be working on, pasted in the chat, and an idea of what angle you might use for those. Okay, so I've got one suggestion. So once again, if you joined the call late or you had to step away, what we're doing is thinking of all those possible news angles that we could weave in. Of course, we've always got to have timeliness is the one you've always got to have. And then, you know, there are some other angles that you can bring in. So Nazmi has a non-halal product. That would be interesting. And is that something that something that you might have to tell me about that, Nazmi, because I'd imagine that would sell in Brunei.
Because for Ministry of Religious Affairs, we also control the products, which is I'm not sure if you're familiar with halal.
Yes, yeah.
Halal. If you're familiar, so basically we control certain products and especially foods and beverages. So yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes there's some food and beverages that we found
I
is non-halal.
see.
So we
I
need
see. Got
to,
you. So they're incorrectly labeled, and so you need to send out an alert
Yeah.
to make sure that people don't
Yes,
buy
exactly.
those products. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, great. Thank
Yes.
you.
Exactly.
All right. And Saidin, you've got face-to-face schooling for primary students. That's really big news, especially if they've all been working from schooling from home. Fantastic. And Faten, you are talking about, got you, right. So increasing the number of poultry farms. Good, yes, I can definitely see that that is going to have be of interest to your readers. So if is anyone stuck on that? Because we did have a couple of people that joined the call late. If you are stuck on that, do let me know. Shahida, great. Beautiful. All right, so those are fantastic. So let's move on. What we're going to do is we're going to look at what happens. So I regularly look at a lot of press releases to try to update my examples, and a lot of people are doing it wrong. And, you know, you just see it all the time, organizations that are quite big and established, and they're just not doing it right. What we're going to do now is compare two press releases. They are Australian, but they honestly could be from anywhere in the world. They're quite, I'm sure you'll find that they're quite relatable scenarios. One has a really clear news angle and the other one doesn't. And I know this is a lot of reading for you, but first of all, take a moment to read this bushfire support initiative dating back to 2013. That's on page 4 of your notes. And what I'd then like you to do is go straight to the next page and read this press release about a leadership roundtable held at a major university. So take a moment to read those. Just read halfway down each one, because most of the way the press release is structured, most of the news is in the first half of the release. So I'll give you sort of 5 or 10 minutes to read that. Use the little icon in your, you'll find it in your control panel, and that way I'll know that you've read it. Okay, so once you've read the first one, what I'd like you to do is just in the chat list the news angles you can see in the first example, the bushfire response example. Good. So very much an angle of impact and significance. And now I don't know about you, but so I've just converted to, so this figure, $150,000 Australian, that's about the same in Brunei dollars. Now, is that a lot of money? Can that buy a lot in your country? $150,000, is that a lot of money? It is? It doesn't buy much in Australia. You know, there would probably be the annual wage of maybe two public servants. So what's interesting is that it's timely, it shows that they're going to stimulate tourism, and it's so enthusiastic, you don't notice it's actually not a very large amount of money. So it was actually a very effective campaign as well, and a lot of people did travel to the region after this marketing initiative, and they decided to visit the area to support the local community, you know, in the aftermath of those fires. Now let's compare that with the second one. What news angles can we see in the second news release, if any? And if you're not sure, just write "not sure." You can't really see a news angle. Wow, that's impressive. Thanks for 10. So that is a fair amount of money. So in Brunei, so to make it sort of about the same, we would probably say that, you know, it's maybe more like 30,000 in a way. So 30,000 wouldn't buy that much. But so let's have a look at the second example, the Australian Centre for Excellence for Local Government. And they've held a roundtable. What news angles can you see in this press release? And once again, if you can't see anything, let me know. Not sure. Yeah, it's really not sure. It's really unclear, isn't it? So it's timely. It says that the roundtable was held on November the 28th. But even here it's confusing because the date of the press release is 13th of November. So when was this roundtable held? And then it really, the whole press release to me, it's almost like if you see a convention, a program description of a conference, it's almost like someone has copied and pasted of that conference description. You know, why is leadership so important? What are the issues for government right now? What were the highlights of this roundtable? So there's nothing else newsworthy in this press release at all. So these are the kinds of things that we don't want to, these are the kind of things that with just a little bit more effort, you can improve it and make it meaningful enough and exciting enough that a news outlet is going to print it. So yeah, we never just want to say, this organisation held this event at this place at this time, because the reader's thinking, so what? You know, we always want to go a little bit deeper and say, this was actually quite controversial, or this is very rare, or this is really significant, or this has relevance to such and such a people. We always want to add that extra news angle. So that is something I'd really love you all to take to heart as you develop your press releases today. Okay, and I'm just going to go back to our slides now. So here is an example of, this is actually from a former participant who attended this workshop. So bear with me, this is sort of a private sector example. But this is another example of what I mean. So this organisation held this event on this date, and it was free for participants. And you sort of think, well, so what? Even the figure that it attracted 50 participants doesn't sound that exciting. So let's have a look at their revised angle, or their revised press release opener. How is this different now in terms of the news angles that it has added? And I've highlighted the changes in that orange colour. So you can either submit in the chat or unmute yourself and tell us what news angle is suddenly clearer in this revised version.
For this one, compared to the first one is just like telling to others, you know, just like, oh, we have something like that. For this second one, for the revised one, it's just like catching the publics to you know, rather than you're putting in the news in the release that we have something, the events. But this one is not even the people reading it, finish it up, reading up the things. They're already catching the first phase of the sentence, encouraging the drivers. So that's, what is it? I mean, it's really catching the readers of the people to read the news. Yeah, that's
so
the thing.
You feel it's written in a more catchy style.
Yeah.
Did you get the sense that it used the language of motorsports a little bit? So it talked about a free track day, the barrier of entry, and then the last sentence here showing what the drivers noticed by using the different tyres, so that increased grip, improved performance. So what they've now done is they've made it relevant to motorsports fans or motoring enthusiasts. Yeah?
In a way, after it's revised, it's also that it's put inside sort of like promotions to the whoever the product it is. So people wanted to go there, wanted to find out whether it's really going to catch their interest to buy it, something like that, you know, especially for the people who interest in the motors and also on the sports.
So do you mean that the organisation name has been moved to the middle of the paragraph? Is that what you mean? So where the first one starts with it, Toyo Tires and blah 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 club opens it, but here by talking about the people who are using the product, it's not the organisation doing the event.
I mean, that's the thing, because that rather than putting the organizations on the first page, so I mean, people will say, this company is trying to promote their things. I mean, people are not really interested to go there, but once it's put it in different way of arranging the sentences, everything, people like from different levels of communities wanted to
exactly
why not, you know, I mean,
that's exactly right. And Fatens added to that. So the first one yeah, it's about the event. Is that for 10? Is that about the first one? I think the most important thing is that it talks about the user first. User, then event, then company. And that's actually really powerful. If your press release is aimed at farmers or schools or doctors or whatever, if you put those farmers and schools and doctors in the first sentence or in your heading, that's actually really powerful. That really adds to the appeal and the readability of the press release, and it lets them feel that they're not being talked at. It lets them feel that this news is for them and it's really relevant to them. So that's a really useful technique. And you'll have the chance to practice that. Good. Yeah, thanks for 10. Agreed. Okay, so those are the kinds of things that we really want to do when we refine our news, when we work on our news angle. And so this is what I'll be really interested in checking from all of you. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is get all of our ideas in order. And I just want to kind of show you what the writing process looks like. And this is whether or not you're a native English speaker. So assuming that you've done all your research, so you have all the quotes and the facts and the statistics about this subject matter, that's a whole separate piece of work before this. Once you sit down and you're ready to write, this is roughly how to approach it. So almost half of your given time should be spent on planning the angle and getting a rough structure in place. The next 30% of time goes to actually, writing it. And the final 20% of time would go to reviewing it. And I would imagine this would also apply even when you are writing in Malaysian, that this process is a useful way to write. The reason being is that we very rarely have the luxury of coming in and writing this piece from start to finish in one single block of time. Most of us get interrupted, we have meetings, we have phone calls, we have emails. So by breaking up the process into chunks like this, it helps you stay on track with where you're trying to go, and without being, there's nothing worse than leaving your screen with a sentence half written, and then you come back 3 hours later and you see this half written sentence and you've got no idea what you were trying to write. Has anyone made that experience where you sort of leave something half written and you can't remember what you were going to say? So this sort of helps you prevent that problem. So what we're going to do now is sort of do a little bit of planning for that sort of first 50% phase. And one of the first things we're going to do is think about our audience. Now, we're always writing to multiple people, but what we want to be aware of is that we don't need to tell all of those people every single thing they need to know. We want to be aware of like one category of reader that we're writing for, and then we apply courtesies for the benefit of the other readers. So in this picture, you can see Michelle Obama surrounded by people, but she's got her eye locked on one boy in the crowd. She's got a message for him, but she's saying it in a way that if other people hear her, they can still follow the logic, they can still get the drift, and everything's above board. So that's what we want to do with you as well. So one of the first things you want to note down to yourself is, who is this piece aimed at? And it's not what you don't want to say is that it's a journalist. You want to think of who is the end user, who you really want that type of person to be reading this news. Again, is it a teacher? Is it families? Is it people with certain illness? So we want to make it clear who this reader is aimed at. The second thing we want to know is, how is this news relevant to the reader? So take a moment to write that response. So remember, we started the day with, you wrote down 4 possible news stories to write. So what I'd like you to do is think about one of those and think about who is the target reader for that one and how is this news relevant to them. Now, we also want to be aware of what should the reader think, feel, or do after reading. And remember, we're not writing an advertisement, so we can't say something like, you know, join us today or buy tickets here. We can't do anything like that. But what we do want to do is direct them to a website, a newsletter, a social media feed, somewhere where they can go and learn more. So that is for things like, I guess, public events or initiatives, or where you want the public to get involved. But for some things, so for example, flood response or, you know, disaster response, then what you basically want to do is you want them to feel a certain way. You want the public to feel reassured that this issue is under control and people are being heard and the government is responding. And then, of course, there is a contact. So sometimes you do want your reader to take a certain action after reading. Sometimes you just want them to feel a certain way. So these are all questions with your target reader in mind. And we also want to be aware of, you know, what other readers will be coming across this. So, for example, you might be writing to the general public, to farmers or doctors or whatever, and you're writing in their language. But you also know that, so I don't know how it is in Brunei, but for example, in Australia, when the government gets voted in, you always know that there's the opposition sitting there observing every single thing that your incumbent government does. So every time your government releases funding, makes changes to taxation or whatever, you know, you've got the opposition sitting there criticizing it. So in your case, as the government, you're writing to these readers, but you're also writing from this quite formal perspective that you have to sort of defend the government's stance, knowing that the opposition could be looking for a hole in any of your you know, arguments. Is that something that, do you have a very lively political scene in Brunei where you have that kind of opposition and conflict? You have to bear with me, I don't know.
No, we don't have that in Brunei. Or, yeah.
Really? Okay. Wow, pardon my ignorance. I should have looked that up before I started working with you today. So, yeah, so just thinking about, you know, what are some other readers that you need to be aware of? You know, who is going to be criticising this or potentially having a second opinion? Paten, you had something else to add?
No.
No? Okay. All right, so that is your audience. Now, the next thing we're going to do is just double check our objectives. So what should the news piece achieve? You know, is there a certain kind of, is there a certain element that the press release is, like I was saying earlier, it's a type of paper trail. It's a type of opportunity for the government to set the record straight and put out the official word about how it is responding to certain situations. In fact, the first press release ever sent was actually a crisis press release. So the very first press release was sent in about 1903, I believe, by a US railway company after an accident. So a train had derailed, property had been damaged, I believe there were 1 or 2 fatalities, and a senior, I guess, executive of the railway company to the scene of the accident to get all the facts and figures straight, and he sent that out in a press release, and that was designed to be sent out before people could spread rumours, incorrect rumours about the accident, about the scale of the accident and how it happened and who was affected. So a lot of press releases really do set out to do that. Perhaps there's some important context about this news. Perhaps this announcement is a long-awaited announcement, or it's the first of its kind. Note who you need to quote or mention. I didn't see many quotes in your press releases. You only need one quote from a spokesperson. So sometimes if there are 2 organisations holding an event, you can have 2 spokespeople, but no more. And very finally, who needs to check the press release before sending? So sometimes that can be a bottleneck, is that people, that the checking process is too long.
Yeah.
For just to add, for in my ministry, the press releases from the respective departments, it goes straight to our permanent secretary. I mean, they hash it out. They write it in the department itself for whatever event that they're holding, and then they send it up. Instead of previously, it goes to us at the ministry's public relations office, and we send it up to our permanent secretary and then to the minister to be vetted. But nowadays, I mean, it's this past year, to cut it short, I mean, to make it less lengthy of an experience, so we decided to just let the departments to send it to the permanent secretary, and then it will be sent to the minister to be okayed, and then only then the final one will be sent to us. It's a shorter route and a faster.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear that you've already made improvements on that. Okay. Okay, so that is just a quick overview of your audience and objectives. Now, just a couple of other things we want to do is make sure that the press release is searchable, because of course, we're living in a day and age that anything you want to find out, you're going to go online. And so what you need to there's a lot of song and dance made of search optimization, but you just need to if you're not sure what search term to use, simply open Google, enter the initiative that you're writing about, whether it's an agricultural program or education or whatever, and see what search results Google suggests. And so you want to pick a search term that is the most likely to be used. And what you want to do is, and I'm going to sort of go back to our notes for a minute, is make sure that you write about it, use it in a way that's still engaging for your reader. So if you look at these two examples here, this is on page 8 of your notes. So just imagine the search term was social media automation. You can see that in both of these snippets, the word social media automation appears midway in the sentence. So they're both in the same place. But out of those two, which one is more engaging? Which one talks to the reader more as opposed to talking about the organization more? I'm going to call them 1 or 2. Which one is more engaging for the reader, 1 or 2? Good. Yeah. So it's kind of similar to the example we saw before about the Toyo tires piece. Okay, so we want to make sure that you're using those search terms, which we won't do just yet. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to start to write a sentence that outlines your press release. We're going to do that now. And I'm going to play you a short presentation, which is about mind mapping. Hands up if you have heard of mind mapping. Who has heard of? Great. And good. So I am glad to see that some of you using that. mind mapping is one of the most powerful planning tools there is. It's really good for taking, like I said earlier, that whole clutter of facts out of your head and putting them in simple sound bites on the page. What we want to do is always be starting our writing in short labels. You know, if we start planning by diving in and writing big sentences and paragraphs, it's harder to see what the underlying structure is going to be. Nazmi, was that a question? No, okay. So let me play this short presentation, and that is going to help you get an idea of mind mapping if you haven't done this before.
I'll show you how to pitch anything in 15 seconds. And we're going to do so with the help of a great tool called a message map. A message map is the visual display of your story on one page. So for this exercise, you're going to need a notepad, a tablet computer, or a good old-fashioned whiteboard. And we're also going to use the example of a real company called Lush. Lush is a global soap store. I believe they're in about 45 countries. They make fantastic handmade fresh soap. Oh, the lemon smells great. I don't have any financial interest in this company, but I know their messaging really, really well. I've talked to the founders before, and in order to create a really good message map, you got to know the story. So let's start with step one, creating what I call a Twitter-friendly headline. The Twitter-friendly headline is the one overarching message that you're trying to communicate to your customer, the one thing you want people to know about your brand or your product. I've already taken the liberty of filling this out. Lush makes handmade soaps and cosmetics. So again, based on my understanding and my understanding of the message, I think that's the one thing they want you to know. Lush makes handmade soaps and cosmetics. If that's all you know, it tells you a lot, and it also fits well within a Twitter post of 140 characters, so keep it short. But now let's fill in the rest of the message map with 3 or at most 4 supporting points. So again, based on what I understand of the messaging so far, I would say fresh is very important to them, and we'll talk about that in a second. Fresh. The other sub-point or supporting point I would make is environmentally, and I'll shorten it, environmentally friendly. And the third point is ethical campaigns. They support a lot of ethical campaigns globally and in their various communities where the locations are held. So Lush makes handmade soaps and cosmetics. There's 3 reinforcing points. They're fresh, they're environmentally friendly, and they support ethical campaigns. Now let's see how this would work out in the real world. I'm going to use a stopwatch for this. Let's assume, hypothetically, a customer walks into a Lush store. A sales associate might say something like this. Hi, welcome to Lush. We make handmade soaps and cosmetics. Everything you see in the store is fresh, it's environmentally friendly, and part of the proceeds go to support ethical campaigns in our community. Take a look around, enjoy yourself. 15 seconds. In 15 seconds, I gave you the broad story. If that's all you know about Lush, this actually tells you quite a bit. But now let's go one step further. Let's extend the conversation somewhat, maybe to a 30-second pitch. You're going to have to support these points for a longer conversation. So under fresh, you might add just a couple of bullet points, like manufactured daily, shipped the next day. Under environmentally friendly, you can put something like unpackaged, so that the plastic doesn't end up in landfills. Or you might put ingredients not tested on animals. These sub-points, the supporting points for each of your 3 key messages, need to be very specific. They need to be examples, data, statistics, or even stories. And under ethical campaigns, you might add 1 or 2 of the campaigns. that the Lush brand supports, either globally or locally in communities. So there you go. This is a message map. It is one of the most powerful tools in communication. It works each and every time, even for very complex products or concepts. I know because I've worked with leaders who have incredibly complex products to talk about or to sell. In fact, the more complex your product, the more you need the message map. Because you, as a leader, you need to communicate the benefits of your product in a way that is simple, clear, and concise. The message map is your winning ticket.
Okay, so what were some, I guess, points that you took away from that presentation in terms of planning an overview of what you're about to write? And you can either submit in the chat or unmute yourself, whatever's easiest.
I guess, yeah. I guess with same with like what Faith is saying. Mind mapping, you can make everything clear from what you wanna convey to the audience that with the press release.
Yes,
so, yeah,
that's great. So you don't clutter it with all this other possible background information. You go straight in by naming the key pieces that need to be there. So as you saw from the that 15-second pitch that he delivered at the end, what that was is a combination of the focus. So in this case, it was the Lush Cosmetics, the 3 points he wanted to make, and what he then, didn't mean to do that. What he then did was put it together into one short statement. So that one short statement is actually a really powerful thing to write, not only in the press release, and we're going to have a go at doing that shortly, but it's also useful at a team level while the press release is still a work in progress. So your manager says to you, Nazmi, I want a press release on this particular piece of religious affairs news, and you go away and you think about it, and you go, okay, this is the news angle, these are the 3 things I'm going to say, and you say, great, boss, I'm going to write a press release that focuses on, why this matters, and these conversation, you can get an immediate response from your manager because they will know whether you're going down the right path or not. And this is to a lot of professionals that think they understand what their manager wants. They then spend half a day or several days writing this piece, show it to their manager, and they get told that it's wrong and it's not what their manager wants. And this happens in organizations everywhere. Tertiary education, banking, government, engineering, it happens absolutely everywhere. So it's actually really, really valuable to do this pre-thinking, not only as part of your writing, but as part of the discussion process that must occur before the writing is finalized. Okay, so I'm going to get you to do this one last exercise before we do take a short break for morning tea and then come back. So at the start of the workshop, you kind of thought about 4 possible press releases and you picked a news angle for each one. So what I'd like, and then you kind of picked one and you thought about your audience a little bit more and you thought about your objectives. Now we're going to go one step further and talk about, so you've already done this bit here. What I'd like you to do now is mind map your supporting points and then have a go at writing a statement that captures a little bit about your news angle plus the supporting points. And now this is sort of a new, this is, I can't remember, I haven't got my workbook open. You might have to just write this in your notes, your blank Word document that you're all kind of taking notes in today. And I'd love to see some of those message statements pasted into the chat. So you're going to need a good 5 minutes or more to do this. Okay, so that's been roughly 5 minutes, and I would imagine that a couple of you have at least a mind map similar to the one that Carmine Gallo just did in the presentation. We know you already chose your topic and you developed and you thought about a news angle. Obviously, that angle is going to be timely, but perhaps there's a relevance angle, significance, extremes, proximity, something like that. So your next job, and I hope you're just after this, up to this bit now, is that you're doing part 3, which is where you're writing 1 or 2 sentences that capture a little bit of everything. The news angle plus a snapshot of the topics your press release will cover. And once you've done that, of course, I'd love to see a couple shared in the chat. I'll try to give as much feedback as possible, and it's really valuable for your colleagues to see this work coming through. Okay, so it is roughly 10:30 Brunei time. Did anyone? How are we going? Is anyone ready to share their sort of opening sentence or two? So I'd love to see some of those pasted in the chat. Is anyone a little bit unsure of what they've done? They prefer to send them to me directly. If you'll notice in the chat, if you select, instead of pasting it to everyone, you can send it to just me. Put up your hand if you'd rather let me have a quick look at it before you share it with your colleagues. No? Okay, so we're just still working. Oh, Nazmi, thank you. Okay. Great. Thank you. Noor. Wonderful. Great. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just, what I'd love to see is like one or two more in there. What I'm going to then do is for Nazmi and Noor, I'm going to just sort of send some direct comments to them over the break. What we're going to do is take a 10-minute break now. It's 10:30 your time. Let's take a 10-minute break and come back at 10:40. So everyone's welcome to send their comments to me and or their I guess message statements to me in that time, and I'll take a look, and then we'll do a little group exercise. So go take a break, and I'll see you back online shortly. Thank you. Okay, welcome back everyone. So we're going to do a group exercise and this is going to, I guess, help demonstrate the value of brainstorming ideas together. So, you know, when you're in an organization or when you're sort of working on these promotional initiatives together, you never just want to assume that one person has all the answers. And in fact, this is another sort of thing that I see quite a lot with all sorts of organizations, is that people will start writing something, they've gone down the wrong path, and then someone suggests a brilliant idea right at the end. And that really adds to the writing. If someone gives you a brilliant idea of an approach you should have taken, you pretty much have to rewrite the piece. So we want to avoid getting in that kind of situation by planning it correctly from scratch. Now I've created normally exercise 2A. This is where we look at an event called the Festival of Sydney. But what I'm going to do is give you a different exercise, and I'm just uploading this in the chat. Oh, sorry, I've just sent it to one. I was meant to send it to everyone. Let me just upload this to the chat. Okay, now it's uploading. Okay, so I've taken a news story off just a public news website talking about some tourism products launched by your government last month. So the only problem, and so this kind of sells through the story that Brunei is open for business, which is great, opening up to the world again, but it is a little bit vague on the details. And you know what, sometimes when there's in the early days of a new government initiative, sometimes you actually can't give away much detail. But let's imagine that this is now launched, it's successful, we need to add more detail. So in the piece, you are going to see that there are a couple of different suggestions. Maybe you could tailor it so it's really catering to local business, showing how the government's going to help local business get back on track with tourism. Or maybe you want to approach it from a public health angle. So you want to show the local citizens and business how they can stay COVID safe even as we start to open up to, to tourism again. So what I'd like you to do, we're going to do this as an exercise. Take a moment to download that piece. Make sure you understand it. Let's answer any questions together as a group first, and then what I'll do is open the breakout rooms. Okay, and if you could give me a thumbs up when you've finished reading, that would be helpful as well. I'll know that you've done. So I've just had one participant say they can't access the article that I've just uploaded to the chat. Is anyone else having trouble opening that? Let me try exporting it as a PDF and I will upload. Okay. Has everybody read that? Yep. Okay. Any questions about what we're going to do? Okay. So the biggest thing is that you might not be used to doing is to get a little bit creative, and even let's say you decide to aim it at small business, and you might not know what incentives the government currently has for small business to help them attract more tourists. So you can make it up. For this exercise, we're going to make it up. We're going to think about what might help small business. It might be some kind of a badge of quality. It might be a publication where they can promote their business for free. It might be, that they're featured on the government website. So whatever it is, just get a little bit creative and make it up. But once again, the idea is to take this content and adapt it for a different audience, but we're just doing the outline. So remember, we're just going to do what the theme is, who the audience is, mind map your supporting points, and then write that message statement. So I'm going to open the breakout rooms. I'm going to give you maybe 20 to 25 minutes to do this exercise. So that'll take us through till 11:20 your time. When you get to your breakout rooms, make sure that one person volunteers to be the scribe, the person writing, and they can screen share and you can all do the planning together. Okay. So I will open those breakout rooms now, and I'm also going to come and visit each group. So I'll see you shortly.
Waalaikumsalam.
But then kita ni one group.
Oh, macam mana boleh tu?
Sama durang sifat. Sifat aku dengan Korea tu ada training. Assalamualaikum Fat.
Bye. Salam.
Berjumpa lagi ke tani. Mana ada lain kan?
Ani suruh apa ni? Buat semua artikel. Aku macam selalu nak faham apa yang suruh.
Sama Fat.
Hilang-hilang lagi tu macam apa kan? Mana Tia?
Aku belum habis baca sebenarnya.
Bodoh.
Catch up bahaya.
Apa?
Yang hari tu dia laju macam mana?
Hari tu Ani lagi satu-satu pulang.
Slow and steady. At least faham pun. Okay, balik-balik aku tanya ya ada. What are we supposed to do? Bukan?
Benar, aku temku cuti Anita. Nada dan moodku sebenarnya ku on saja.
Itu benar teh.
Kita. Apa ni? Apa tu na? Durang ano lah. Wakil durang sifat.
Aku tahu.
Yes, dia bercakap.
Apanya tadi?
Apa tak?
Ya tadi apa lihat sebelah kah? Durang tourism buat ni.
Dadai.
Tourism package.
Yuna, you cakap target audience and then news angles to include main topic of press release, subtopics A, B and C. Yang tadi tu yang ada ia bagi arah page 8 ke les kejap ah. And arah they had it she had it on her slides tadi after apa tu namanya after that lush tadi tu
yang pasal tourism tu kan
sekali lepas satu dia suruh buat apa yang tadi, what did she say? She said to create new angles and then just create whatever product, because macamnya new angles to include apa. Kata ni baca ia punya what was it? We were reading the tourism news tadi kan. Babu kata balik.
Suruh ambil dari sana ke sejak pagi siang.
I think so, and then to add on.
mind mapping dia tanya. yang macam ada pernah menyabut ada.
Tulis mula tapi main mapping dulu. Satu.
Mia tu kalau usulnya tu kapaten
I think so. Tunggu sekejap Let me open balik. Apa tu?
Referring to the news release.
Target audience right here.
Create a modified press release. Outline
Target
guidelines.
audience.
Siapa tukang tulis?
Mari aku naib.
Baik juga.
Ya.
Kita tengok prison.
Terus present tu juru tulis.
Ikaw! Buyok na, basta rin lang niya ito jurutulisan na sa mga tukang cakap
Pasar tu Fet, pasar.
Just so you know, I'm actually recording the course using a different device.
Ya kah, kapaten. Share please later.
Nanti once I upload it.
Okay.
Thanks kapaten.
You're welcome.
Target audience-nya public ke ni sebenarnya?
Yeah, it's for public.
Ataupun
the public. Target audience is public.
Negara.
Yes, the public.
Orang luar tu lah.
Orang luar dan orang dalam negara. Macam kan we used to have KNK, Kenali Negara Ketani, and then they revamped it to be Brunei Seleraku, I think like that. And
public including outsiders lah kah? Outsiders.
foreigners, yeah, because it's
Foreigner.
because you cakap, it says there for school holidays promotion in April, August and December this year, and for tourist arrivals from abroad once borders are open.
This new audience, a small local business. Tu dia menyabut benar. New audience could be small local business, international tourists, health authorities, or another audience. You will need to brainstorm what is meant by the tourism products mentioned in the article. Example could be copy tracking apps. Citing this new tourism apps.
Kita bagi tahu lah kan kita tadi target audience-nya public including outsiders / foreigners, small local businesses. Apa lagi tu tadi? Tourists. Tourists atau foreigners belum tahu.
Yeah, foreigners.
International tourists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Local businesses.
Okay, itu sudah aku type.
And another audience. The Brunei government mentions tourism to attract them.
Do you want to share your screen on what you're typing?
Yeah.
Baik je tu kan? At least we can see macam mana di mana
Yeah.
di mana. Cuba dapatkah?
Bah.
How do you say your name actually?
Catherine.
Fathrin.
Lawan namanya. Lawan namanya. Ingat ko supaya nito Feta. Your name itu.
Fathrin. Is it?
Yes, Catherine.
Jawinya macam mana kan tu? I've never lawa bisa pelang macam lambut bunyinya.
Pot, ra. Yanun.
Fata.
Fata.
Fata Rayanun. Fatrin. Wah, barat bunyinya.
Mesti di-save internet. File, save as. Sebentar.
Screen share. Open.
Okay.
Package button.
Or. Screen share. This one. Share. Salah. Sabar salah lah pula.
Apa yang salah? Oh. Open the document dulu and then
Salah ni.
Oh.
Jadi ada to share sama sikit. Semula. File. Mana tadi target audience?
You know, all this our conversation will be online. Nampak ni kalau orang melihat. When I upload it, it's gonna be on YouTube.
Ya kan, kabupaten.
Oh,
Steady kabupaten atau.
but it's in a private. I'll open this one lah to give to you.
YouTuber punya ni.
Apa tu?
Steady tu kabupaten lah.
YouTuber.
No, I just put it there to our macam my for personal reference nanti for future reference. Yang last week pun I did sudah. Yang social media.
Steady kan kabupaten atau. Ui.
Masya Allah.
Boleh tahan tu ya.
Nanti korang mengajar macam mana? We do Zoom together and then I'll show you how.
Ajar ku please.
Okay.
Ajar ku juga.
You guys using iPhones?
Dah, aku Samsung.
Samsung. Fatrin?
Lain kali tu kabupaten lah.
Boleh pakai I also have apa tu namanya tadi?
iPhone.
iPhone.
Okay.
Oh.
You can use kalau ada iPad pun okay juga boleh. Oh. Bawa bawa Din Sabri. You kali Fatrin buka your where you were writing today, the document you were writing.
Yeah.
Buka dulu and then sudah saved.
Yeah, already.
Okay, so now you share screen balik. You
find it.
taruh atas kali or on your desktop or open awal. Usually kalau open awal, it will go straight to that one. I mean, the choices will be on top.
Wala. Okay. Nada ba?
Search for the name of the search name of the document you saved it under. Boh, kesian.
I don't see the word search as well. Ani na ako that baru tak appear. Ito na. Can you see now?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
X.
Rina cuti ke ni masih?
Oh, cuti masih kabupaten.
Siap
Sampai 30.
Cute-nya.
Ya tah.
Sampai 30 sejak.
Tidur. Sampai 30 menyambunglah cuti hari raya.
Hari raya.
Kalau anda nampak, hari Isnin kerajak. Bawa kuih
Hari Senin kerja.
Hi, Steph.
Hi. How's it all going?
We just found that
Right for the public.
Fatrin has just found the document that she was writing on. So,
Yeah.
just recently opened. So what we have to do, just to clarify, because my internet has been feeling poorly today for the past few days actually, and we are supposed to, our target audience. Are we supposed to also rewrite the topic, the title of the?
You could rewrite the title, yep. But the main thing I want to see is that opening sentence that makes it really clear what the new angle is and what you might include in the press release if you were to develop it further.
Okay.
Which, we won't do that. We'll just stop at that one sentence. But yeah, what I'd like to see is thinking about the news angle and your audience, your main point, your sub-points A, B, and C, and there's space to fill those in on the second page of your exercise. And I have an unassigned participant.
Oh.
Was NH in your group or in someone else's group?
No.
I'm gonna bring them in here.
Okay.
We're in the room.
As a rule, we in Brunei, when we have courses like this organized by IPA or another organization, we are meant to put our ministry name first, like I have MPRT, and then our name. It's for attendance purposes.
Right.
So we don't have to ask awkwardly, like, Fatrin, where are you from actually? We could just, oh, okay.
I see. Got you. So is that MPRT is the name of your department, is it?
It's the name of the ministry, Ministry of Primary Resources and Tourism.
Right. I'm with you. Yeah. Got it. Okay.
So can I say, for example, if I were to rewrite the first sentence, instead of the Brunei government launches a new tourism package on Saturday, can maybe, just to sex it up a little bit, as what my previous boss said before, that was his term, he said sex it up, and we got like, what do you mean, sir? He said, to attract people. I said, okay.
Make it sexy.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And so say, for example, if I were to say, if we were to start with, what's it called? I forgot to write it down earlier. New, what was it? It was on the tip of my tongue. New tourism destinations ready. New tourism destinations to be launched in Brunei for school holidays. Something like that, for school holidays, in time for school holiday promotion.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, great.
Okay.
Exactly.
So that way it could grab people's attention. Oh, new places to visit, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That could be good. Now, realistically,
Yes.
it would be hard for the government to open a bunch of new places, right? So new places tend to be run by people with specific interests, like it's about food or it's about certain heritage or art or something like that. So I think it's hard for the government to, when we say tourism products, they can't just like bang open a bunch of museums at short notice. But what they can do is give incentives. So maybe you have like 5 museums in your town, and maybe there's like a pass that if you buy the pass, you can attend each of them for a lower cost than if you were to visit them individually. And then there are also, like, another tourism product might be like a free transport pass. So you can use all the buses, in this area for like one fixed price. So the government will do things like that.
That would be nice. Free bus ride.
But can I just share with you how the uniqueness of Brunei tourism is, and our museums and all that, because it's $0 to visit all our museums.
I see.
Yes.
Okay.
And most people, tour buses are there, but it's not like when we hop on, hop off, like how we do in, I think we have it in Sydney as well. I can't remember.
Yes.
It's been a while since I've
I
visited. But we don't have that in Brunei. We don't have that yet because we don't have the numbers. We don't have the number of visitors or even the interest from people locally, because locally we have our own cars, our own vehicles, and then even with our family, who say, for example, we have visitors from abroad, we hire travel agents to do the tour guiding and with the buses and all that.
Right.
So hop on, hop off is not here yet. It was
not
part
something
of.
you do.
No, it's not something we do. We have made proposals. Well, I've made proposals to the Ministry of Home Affairs way before they launched the Bandar Cilegon Master Plan. But I said it will take some time because the number of people is not many, and there's only 420,000. It is a bit correct.
So, these are just my examples that would work in Sydney. So maybe a different example would be that the government is creating certain events, or maybe the museums open after hours. So that's something quite popular in other cities around the world, is that they have night at the museum. So maybe think of things like that. That would be maybe not creating a multi-million-dollar facility,
No.
but creating events that are just designed to get people out and about again.
And make the town, the area, the community, I mean the area where it's at, to be lively, more lively, instead of
Exactly.
instead of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Darwin, 9 o'clock it's very quiet.
Yes, exactly. So things like that. So it might be night markets or events or talks or exhibitions or museum open till 10 p.m. You know, whatever it is. Yeah. So,
So
see
okay.
if maybe you could do things like that. Which, yeah.
So instead of saying
So I will
tourism products, we can say, well, it does say that tourism packages, but tourism products also, but also perhaps tourist attractions, new tourist attractions.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. New attractions. Yeah. Good.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I
what
will
else?
leave that with you.
What was the other one that we need to have? I had the list earlier on. I can't remember where it's at. I can't see it now. This one. So new angles, main topic of press release. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. All right. I'll check back with you later.
Right here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Macam saja bercakap.
Keluar orang putih aku. Keluar orang putih England kepala tu. Oh. So tiba-tiba macam kenapa ya?
Kafatin dari UK bah?
Oh.
Ya study. Kafatin study dari UK bah?
Yes.
Itu belajar.
Yes, I was there for 2 years and then I worked for another 2 years. Oh, see, you see, it comes out.
Kan, steady kan?
Awesome.
No, you guys can do it as well. Fatrin dari mana? Taimanitia.
Ingat ni. Dari paling kali paling.
Dari TCP sama Titin.
Ikut.
You work with Titin Abdul Rahman. Apa namanya? Bandar.
Nani.
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 She's my niece. So, were you...
Catherine lama kali sudah sana.
2007.
Wow.
Sudah.
And then, so, I mean, you can do the presentation as well instead of me. Rina can do.
Saya tahu.
Rina lah.
Ya, pasal Kafatin andang tourism ba?
Yes, but you see...
Yeah, at least she knows what to say kan.
Lurus apa tourism?
At least she knows what to talk about.
Kafatin tak kali libot po Kafatin.
Masuk sana. Fatrin, can you do... Inshallah, I try. Fatrin, can you write down also maybe Rina to put in new ideas, new products ke apa? Because ia cakap sana, it says that in in our response, ia cakap target audience. Sudah tadi tu, title tadi berubah sudah kan? News angles to include. Apa lagi selain daripada orang yang museum seperti ini, but maybe that I don't know, special gallery open by fisheries ke by apa tu yang di Meragang tu betul lah.
Marine.
Yeah, the Marine Biodiversity Center.
NPC atau?
Yes.
Atau macam belum kurang tahu.
Kan? See, even Fatrin dah tahu
Nada
nah.
Kafatin. Masa ni dorang nada open ba?
I know, but just we just
lagi kalau dulu ada.
but we are kata
NPC atau?
kata anu tadi dia cakap it's okay katanya. Katanya masukkan sajanya, we make it up-nya.
Marine Biodiversity Center. Okay.
Bah. Apa ia punya apa ia punya tajuknya di sana, say for example kena otherwise I will just say Miss Rina please, I will just say please Miss Rina.
Catherine, apa tu kali Kafatin?
Apa tu?
Ya banyak ke education, more on education punya. Itulah pasal banyak student bah melawan.
Yes, but
do we have to mention for the public or for the for the education
supaya
punya?
dapat bawa ibu bapa and children.
correct, because it is also Yes, because it's targeting the school holidays kan in April, August and December. Uh, so
Yes.
and say for example kalau foreigners, maybe if it's on education and research kan tu, Marine Biodiversity Centre is for research as well. Therefore we can have international researchers or marine students apa to come in and have a look at what we have here in our waters. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, to create that opportunity, perhaps. And then diving. Because our waters kan, if I'm not mistaken, our waters are also is pelaluan for tiger sharks and other whales when they migrate kan, and then also for them to the pods that they are apa tu namanya yang melahirkan ni, yang baru babies kan. Lurus kah? Is it still true? Right?
Boleh lah, Kabupaten.
But you better write it down. Luruskan begitu tu Fatrin menulis.
Tiger shark enthusiast.
Kan? Tiger shark and then is it hammerheads as well kah? Because it's their migration route kan, Brunei Bay. Correct or not? No, I'm asking you.
Boleh je tu bah.
No, we're being here.
Yeah. Dah pasal
yang nampak kaca tengah-tengah and then they see the shark swimming.
Ada tu Kabupaten juga. Ya, ada. Pasal yang tu ia lama sudah tapi banyak pelang area tu ada ku temis je lah. Pasal area tu pun ngam aku apa tu namanya menyambung Kabupaten. But then masa tu tah durang berpanyap-panyap. Macam berpanyap indah lagi ada bah. Banyak durang reduce sudah macam tu.
Dan building
barang-barang tu durang simpan. Durang simpan bah. Mana ada berpakai lagi.
Kesian.
Jadi kalau yang untuk promotion itu suruh saja keluarkan lagi. Susah bisa-bisa.
Keluarkan lagi. Pasal masa ni durang renovation pulang. Tapi untuk office punya.
It's not going to be
Dah lagi durang
as the MBC.
Dah lagi durang bukakan untuk public lah macam tu.
Tapi I think they should open it supaya macam lagi siok lah adakan dia agak.
Pasal macam ada apa tu panyunya pun sudah
released.
Macam kena release kan. Itu. Ya tak dah lagi ada kan dilihat lah sebenarnya di sana tu.
Dia bunyi. Dapat ni tadi buat saja supaya siok.
Buat saja tiap.
Supaya siok artikel tadi ya.
11.20 sudah.
Correct.
Lagi lama.
Apa lagi tu? Ya.
Apa lagi?
Dia punya title masih New Tourism Attraction ni.
Atau nama. Macam aku agree with the with Kabupaten je.
The new title.
Tadi macam okey ya.
With the new title kan?
With the new title.
Sekejap
Okay, so contentnya will be about the marine biodiversity.
No. Kejap macam mana bukan ni kan? I'm trying to full screen, okay. Mencari, benar tanda pandai. Tajuk, ini tajuk asalnya ni ya?
Tidak. Ada yang tajuknya tadi. Cuba lihat yang tadi. Apa tajuknya?
Sekejap.
Brunei launches tourism product.
Tourism product. Attract visitors independent.
Panjang tu tajuknya.
That's why I said That's why I said tadi tu kan can we change apa namanya?
I think we already changed kan jadi new tourism destination.
Yes.
I think it's okay.
New tourism.
Dalam ni sekarang.
New tourism products ke lah? New tourism products to be launched ataupun new tourism activities to be launched. To be launched for school holiday promotion. Yeah.
Following the early endemic.
Apa
namanya dia?
Dah, in the seksi tu following the early endemic tu, the lawa tu.
Following the early endemic instruction, control.
Rina, mana gambarnya kan Rina Hani? Dapat jumpa gambar.
Apa tak?
Mana Rina Hani kan? Dah ada mukanya ni. Rindu rindu. Sebulan
jangan
lah, sebulan.
Ya Allah. Dengan rambutku lagi di atas bom. dengan nada bosul di kepaten, jangan tak.
Kuliah apa ni kuliah?
Macam indah area tu ya je sama. Ada je terbuka. Salah katik ku ah. Sekali nada bosul so apa. Allah nampak tu orang.
Ini kan lawannya.
Pisan je bandara. Ani jangan tah macam apa? Amah kali.
Stop Azim. So, kayak mana tiap durang punya nenek. The Brunei government launches a new tourism package. Betul sana new tourism packages. Okay, your first line ni kan. Maybe in the first line tu we say something like not the Brunei government launches a new tourism package. We mention the products yang diorang mention sini. Apa saja tu? You put there temburong, the new package followed the recent launch of for the remaining two of the countries. So they're promoting Belait and Tutong kan Yang this particular one tunggu, the tourism according to Brunei's MPRT, the tourism product are designed specifically for Brunei. Okay, so now we put there Brunei Muara and what's the new?
Temburong juga kan?
Yeah, and Temburong. Brunei Muara and Temburong districts. Having new ataupun more to see in Brunei Muara and Temburong districts. More activities.
That's nice.
More activities. More ataupun new activities to experience in Brunei Muara and Temburong districts. To experience in Brunei Muara and Temburong districts. Ada tujuan bahasa jiwa bangsaan ni. Okay, kelinga bahasa. Baiklah, iklan. My friend works there, ada orang bahasa. Apa tadi? What was it?
Awak pulang tajuan ni, more to experience in Brunei Muara and Temburong during the holiday season.
Ya tak kan? Kalau editing, I can. Kalau membuat baru, I cannot. Ya tak kan?
Steady berkapatan ni.
Ani kan mencuba nak macam ni.
Kamu yang steady. Rina hutang kawatin lah.
Ada tu.
Banyak hutangnya.
Banyak ni hutang ko.
Benar.
Para kapatid, kita ni minum nanti.
2 bulan menunggu. Malar kena tanya masa meeting.
Kita. Kalau faham bisa kita kapatid.
Dapat. That's why I said bring it. Dapat. Give it to me. I'll go meet them. Anyway, more to experience in Brunei Muara and Temburong districts this holiday season. Karang. Mana tu lagi? Isi anunya. Mana tu isi anunya sini the national. Okay, so and then the landmark satu. The first line tu anu kan is very important tu kan. New the packages cover.
Sekarang ni pindah jadi first line.
Atau lari kanan ni tak kalah.
Ni jadi first line.
Yes.
Tourism activities will be launched. Okay.
So lepas tu baru tu ada new package to be launched in an effort to support the local tourism industry which has been dramatically affected by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. So the third paragraph tu ya dipakai. Ada kan?
new tourism activities
Okay.
to be launched for the school holidays promotion in effort to support the local
Yes.
tourism industry.
Local tourism industry, full stop.
And yeah.
Yeah. And then cukuplah kan? We are not rewriting the. We're not rewriting the.
No, ni saja.
Yeah. So.
Kalian mention target audience lah tu boleh.
Yeah, target audience tadi.
Yeah.
Lepas satu lah the next target audience colon. You put there.
This would be.
Yeah, for.
Copy paste nya tu yang di atas.
An exciting. Exciting apa?
Activities.
Moment.
For both.
Activities ke lah.
For both local and foreign tourists. For both local and foreign visitors.
Dan sudah tak
Oh. Baru dah tak. Okay, relax. Kan dulu. Okay. I sign up
topik
dulu.
lain tu dulu.
Oh. Anu dulu sekejap. Bah. Nanti you have your phone number sudah. Rina ada nombor telefon Fatrin sudah?
Belum.
Belum. Sekarang macam mana kan mengantar no? Oh, share the video.
Nanti share. Fat, my number 880. You can lah ambil my number 880.
Ambil telefon dulu.
I mean private message sekarang. Because kalau Ani you public kan, mendak tahu orang nombor telefon.
Kepaten.
Bani YouTube kan?
Oh.
Sekarang saja.
Tu sekejap. I'll send you mine.
Oh.
Nah. Sudah I've given you mine to Fatrin. Ada? Ada direct message. No.
Ada, I have your number.
You are? Baik tantar SMS. That WhatsApp me, maybe I have your number. Jua, I don't.
You do.
I do?
Pasal I think so. So dulu tadi meeting
Berhenti waktu ada. Fatin lagi selalu tu ya wakil kementerian.
Benar. Mana ada I have the only TCP I have Dan Kurosima, Mawarni, Noraisha Bujang, Titin sama Jilihan. Or maybe you are put under not TCP kali. Anu kaliganya apa? MOD.
Maybe.
Oh.
Ataupun andang dada.
Maybe you got my number tapi indah sampai telefon. Nah, ada tak?
Jatan dah sampai telefon. Ada.
Ani ya, Mr. Osman Okay.
Bakal Fatin share tah arahku juga.
Sekejap. Sekejap lah.
Share please.
Sekejap.
Baba. Faten.
Oi,
Dah kita cuti.
yang tu dulu.
Belum.
Belum lah.
Bagi penemu sana pulang.
Apa?
Dia lagi dapat di-undo tu. Dapat di-delete ke tu?
Entah.
Dah dapat di-delete tu.
Anu kelih apa ni? But then no one else can see that message. Our number satu. Tani dua saja.
Okay.
Oh, and then I'm covering the video with my hand actually. Supaya anda nampak. Sekarang dia masuk online kan?
Okay. Okay. Apa ni namanya? Target audience sudah. New angles to include sudah. Main topic of press release. I think it's already there. Subtopics A, B, and C.
Oh, there.
Subtopics could be hi. Welcome back.
Yeah, that's looking good. You've made a lot of progress.
So we were just about to touch on subtopics. Can we add in subtopics can be on the COVID-19 statistics that is mentioned there as well, or and then also another subtopic is the two packages, which is Brunei Muara and Temburong, are actually as a follow-up on the Belait and Tutong. Is it possible to mention what are the items, what are the attractions that can be found in this new package?
I think
definitely.
This would be best included in the next paragraph.
So what you can do is give one or two examples. So you can say new tourism activities such as X and Y will be launched for this school, for the upcoming school holidays in an effort to promote the tourism industry.
Okay.
Yeah? So what are some of those activities that you can put in the first sentence? Because that's a really big part of your selling point.
So we mentioned few of the activities, Fatin.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm typing it down for you so that you don't have to, so that you can just copy paste your Fatrin. school holidays. Yeah.
Great.
The school holidays.
Okay.
And can be activity section will be available during the school holidays, during the upcoming school holiday. Is that a word? Upcoming school holiday. Upcoming. And the public may book through travel agents, and through this website. You just give a link. Yeah, that would be easier.
Yep. Sounds good.
I put the HTTP. Okay, copy paste buttering activity section will be available.
Are you going to paste that into the chat?
Yes, I pasted it on
Great.
Personally. I DM Fatrin, and then so she can copy paste it onto the Word document.
Sounds good.
Yes.
I will wait to see it.
Because if I were to copy, I'm sorry.
Is that all?
Yeah, I guess. Hang on.
Okay.
I've also DM'd it to you, Stephanie. I don't want to.
Yep, I can see that.
Yep.
Great. Now, with the one thing is that we don't include the website that close to the top. That's always at the end. What we do is we sell the news first. So we say something like activities X and Y will be available during the school holidays, and then some kind of a current affairs angle, like responding to a need for parents to
feel like
nature
that.
with
Okay.
kids or yeah.
Okay.
And then so once you've read all the details, then right at the end, then you say
to book this
booking
exciting
information can be found at.
Okay.
And you don't even need to say this exciting. So you always kind of pare back on the emotion a little bit. So you might say something like, to find out more, visit the Brunei tourism website at www. Yeah. That is looking good. Okay, so you are just about finished. So I'm just going to check with one more group, and then I think we can meet back in the main session.
Okay. I'm just gonna leave for a bit, 5 minutes. Then I'll be back.
Do you think 5 minutes?
No, for me. I need to leave just for about 5 minutes. I need to go to the loo. Sorry. Sorry about that. But I needed to mention, at least we're all girls.
Yeah, exactly. So I just need to find out how much time to give you all. But I think everyone's nearly finished. So that's good. Okay. I will see you. I'll see you all shortly.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Mafatin di office ka?
Yeah, of course.
Gitu ba?
Sampai 4:30.
Jalannya jauh nih.
Until 4:30. Okay, I need to sekejap 5 minutes.
Ba. Okay, 10 pun boleh.
Jawabannya jauh Pak.
Ya terbagi 10 minit.
Benar, gitu.
Melihat dulu wajahnya Rina Wadian ni. Kadang terjumpa di mana-mana, dia tahu.
Allah, tapi biar ni lagi usul kau baca li.
Ya, ni juga natural look saja.
Benar tah. Sekarang tah. Sekarang lagi tu kata.
Yang bermakeup dulu kan.
Aku anu dulu. Aku bagi tunggu dulu. Mana? Sekejap. Aku bagi arah kita. Aku bagi gambar. Gambar lagi tu ya. Gambar.
Sekarang terjumpa di mana-mana.
Ya, montel. Aku ni. Benar. Mana? Tunggu aku manukan. Oh, betul sudah kita sana arah TCP itu. TCP.
Yang bawah tu kan toh yang arah jabatan tanah.
Yes. Sama kawasan ada.
Oh, okay. Aku teks kita my number.
Bukan habis dia ni breakout roomnya.
Sudah. No.
Breakout room will close in 44 seconds.
Bang, amta to. Ba iya yang kan ma-present dorang dorang ka Fatena. Ya.
Disuruh myself lang tadi. Saya ke toilet ani kali. Tahu ke toilet pun juga.
Kita tak. Kita okay.
Tahu ke toilet pun juga.
Benar.
Berapa hari you cuti?
22 days sebenarnya.
Yuk cuba.
Batah pun dah cuti. Oh ya.
I think we share our statement in the chat group for everybody. Sorry about that. But we haven't finished it.
Oh, right.
Just for us to go through it. I mean, 4 of us. Well, it's open.
Let's have a look. So, what I'd love to see, first of all, we had a couple of different scribes in the groups. So what I'd love to see is if you're the person writing, please paste your outline into the chat, because we've got some really lovely different approaches to the press release. I'm just going to... So, has anyone pasted theirs into the chat yet? I can't quite see. So if you were the scribe, and I will just share the screen.
Hi, Stephanie. So just paste it in the chat room.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Okay, thank you. And what's really interesting is that they are all so different. So Nazmi and Co from Group 1 had a focus on all the big, the big discounts. So you've got price promotion packages for flights, hotels and homestay. And then you've got your local culture experience, your authentic Bruneian experience. So something that would be really of interest, right? So yes, so yours is aimed at international travelers, very much, because it really talks about the big ticket attractions in Brunei. And by contrast, Catherine and team very much tailored it to locals, especially to families. So you can see how different it is. So we're talking about 2 specific regions. It's for the school holidays, and it's the various activities on offer. So instead of big discounts and programs of how to experience Brunei in a 2-week nutshell, very, very much aimed at families. And then we had a third one. Where did they go? We had an ecotourism story. So who was it that was the author of that one? Sari, was that you, Sari?
The one who's writing it is Puan Norashida. I'm just the talking one.
Sorry. All right, maybe she stepped away from her computer for a minute. Oh, no, there she is. No, thank you. Ecotourism. Yep. So Ulu Temburong National Park, new campaign, good news for adventurous locals and outdoor types. Great. So I had a go at sort of writing these as well because I wasn't sure how you would go with this exercise, but here's one. I had a go at writing one specifically about the restaurant sector. So saying that Brunei's restaurant sector is going to get a grant, and so businesses that apply to receive the funding will be able to move to contactless payments and interior refurbishments to allow people to space out more. So I'm happy to share these slides with you later, by the way, so feel free to have a look at that. And I had a go at writing your Temburong one as well. And I don't know if I misspelled it. Temburong. Did spell it.
Yes, supposed to be Temburo.
Temburong. Right, I'll have to fix that later. But yeah, I had a crack at that one too. And so again, as we've seen a couple of times today, really naming the people that you're appealing to, whether it's families or adventurous locals. And, you know, we can weave a lot of background into it, calling it a green gem or like biodiversity rich. And we can also have this angle that we're implying that this taps into a broader trend that ecotourism is growing in popularity in Brunei. So there's so much you can do with your press release to kind of create a very specific angle. And I'm super pleased with what I've seen. So how did you enjoy that exercise, which tied together quite a lot of what we've learned today? So we really worked on your news angle, and you all did a fabulous job at that. And you also mind mapped to come up with a very clear statement. So any feedback, Catherine?
I like it when we were divided into the rooms.
Got it. So you enjoyed the collaboration process?
Yes.
Yeah. You know,
I hear a bit like we all keep quiet. Only when you ask questions, then some will pop out and talk.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, you were all very chatty, so that was really nice to see. I am really impressed to see the level of teamwork that went here. So I don't know if this is possible for you to do in your jobs when you get back to your desks tomorrow at work. But all of you brought some great ideas to this piece. And, you know, there's a saying in English that goes 1 + 1 = 3. Have you heard of that? 1 + 1 = 3.
Yes,
Yeah. And you can kind of imagine what it means. It means that by like two people working together, you achieve more than what those people individually would have achieved.
Yeah,
so you can keep up.
Yeah, in other things, we used to say that 2 heads is more better than 1 head.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's that principle. So if you can kind of keep up this type of approach when you do write press releases, you'll get some really good results. So good job, everyone. Okay, so we have got about 40 minutes until lunch break, and it is because it's 11:50 your way, isn't it? Just checking that I haven't got the time wrong. Yeah. So what I want to do is do a couple more things and then give you an opportunity to do a little bit more writing on your own press releases. So let me just, what we're going to do is look at the structure of a press release. So far what we did was get the really important, the sell points through. So actually Faten was sharing in the chat earlier that she was told by a boss to make it sexy. And, you know, so that's what we've spent the morning doing. We've worked on the angle that is going to get readers excited to read it. We've made it sexy. But of course, there's a bit to go. So what we're going to do is look at structure in a little bit more detail. And this is where we introduce the inverted pyramid. Put up your hand if you have heard of this before. Who's heard of this structure for press releases? No? Shahida, yes. Couple.
I have,
okay.
Yep. It's the Maslow's hierarchy for management, but not for writing.
Right. Yeah, right. So yeah, I'm not sure, I haven't heard it in the context of management hierarchy, but basically the way we approach writing a press release is that we open And the reason it's kind of tapered off like that is because not that there are less words towards the end, but it is less timely, less relevant, less exciting towards the end. So we open with a paragraph that captures your news angle and your key points. And all of you actually did that just now for your fictional Brunei tourism angles. You wrote that opening angle. The next 3 or so paragraphs explain your points A, B, and C in the order, roughly, that you've set them out in the opening paragraph. So those are the explanation paragraphs. Then maybe 3/4 down, we have our quote, our spokesperson quote. So, and now little tip here, your spokesperson quote should not add new information to the content. It exists to kind of add the emotion that you want readers to feel. So if this is a message of something that's concerning or exciting, this is where the spokesperson says, we are very worried for the safety of these people, blah, blah, blah. It's not where they say 2,400 lives are at risk and we have deployed 27,000 personnel to save them. That's not where you share your numbers. So make sure that the quote is simple and a bit emotive and powerful, but not factual. And then the last part of the press release is called the boilerplate, and that's where you have the specific details, like how long this initiative has been around for, how big is it, how small is it, things like that. So we're going to look at just another, I guess, typical press release. Let's just scroll through your notes. Sorry, my page is struggling to load here. So you can all see we're on page 13. Yep. So there's our diagram, the NEWS. And what we're going to do is look at this press release here from the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs. Take a moment to read that and let's break down, let's sort of spot that structure. Let's see if we can identify the different parts of that piece. I'll just give you a moment to read that. Okay, so I know I probably haven't finished reading the whole piece, but even if you've read up until the quote, we can sort of still talk about this. Now, in the opening sentence, the first paragraph, what are the 3 topics that you see that are developed further in the next 3 paragraphs? So first of all, what's happening? You can pop that in the chat. What's happening? Oh. So the opening sentence says, today in New York, Australia will host a forum and the importance of women's participation for sustainable peace building. Good. Okay, so one of the message is women's voices, women's role in peace building. The second one is forum, and the third thing is Australia. So, Australia in a big official sense. And you can see that in paragraphs 2, we expand more on the idea of the forum. So it talks about who the organisers are, who's involved, and what its point is. The second one starts to talk more, brings in the other organizer, and the third one expands more on the topic of women in peace building. So you can see that very loosely, the 3 topics that you learn about in paragraph 1 are now expanded on in the next few sentences. Now, this is one thing you'll notice is that paragraph 1 is just 1 sentence, whereas you guys just now wrote maybe 3 sentences. That's fine. Each organisation has a slightly different style, and some PR staff have different styles as well. So don't worry too much that 1 paragraph consists of only 1 sentence, because you don't necessarily have to do that. So next we can see that there's a quote. Actually, the quote goes across 2 lines, which does sort of break the structure a little bit. And then here is the other nice to know information. Now, throughout this, we can also see, now if you're going to do a little bit of a cross-check later, you can also see that it addresses the 6 W's. I'm going to write that in the chat. This is actually in your notes as well. The 6 W's. So who, what, when, where, why, how. How is sort of an H, but it ends with a W. So we can see very clearly who's doing this, what it is, when it is, it's today, where, it's in New York, why, it's because this is the month of Australia's presidency of the United Nations Security Council, and how is it happening? It's happening in conjunction with another NGO. So this is sort of, so one of you mentioned earlier that you're keen to learn about some frameworks to use at the checking process. So these are 2 really big frameworks we've discussed just now. First of all, we looked at the NEWS structure. And secondly, we looked at the importance of checking for the 6 W's. So those are really valuable when you're at the checking stage. And of course, those are independent of whatever your skill level is in English, although I think this group has really strong writing skills, which is great to see. So that is the structure in a nutshell. Now, we're also going to look at, there's macro structure. So that inverted pyramid that I showed you just now is what I would call the macro structure. But we also need to pay attention to structure at a micro level, so between sentences and paragraphs and points. And we'll just quickly go over this because I do want to give you 20 minutes of time to kind of develop your own press releases before you break for lunch. So one of the first things is that each paragraph should be about 1 particular point, and you need to use a topic sentence to state that main point. So, a topic sentence, you need to have a topic sentence, and also the most important clause needs to come first. Does everyone know what a clause is? So in English, just quickly, a clause it's a grammatical term. A sentence consists of more than 1 clause. Each clause is its own self-contained thought. Let's look at this here. So in this example, A and B are both basically the same content, but I've moved the main clause around. So which one do you think has the clause placed the most effectively? A talks about the name of the report, starts by talking about the name of the report, B opens with the key finding of that report. So which of those is more effective?
I think B.
Yeah, good. So it opens with the key point. This is the one I was looking at. So that's a chat about clauses, but this is the one where we talked about the topic sentence. So with C and D, again, it's from the same press release, but I've moved the topic sentence. So again, which one has the topic sentence more effectively placed?
It should be D.
D?
Yeah.
Who else thinks D? Nazmi, is that a C? Yeah. I think I agree that I think C is more important because is more effective because it opens with the finding of the report. So so these are sort of things that we're looking for. That each paragraph starts with the sentence that is going to not only contain the main point, but the most effective, the most powerful point. So with our topic sentence in place, we also want to pay attention to the links between sentences. And there are 3 links that we're going to talk about. The first one is the statement and support technique. This is great for quotes. So it's where you write your sentences in pairs. And the first sentence in that pair makes quite a big statement using words like sustainability, inaccessible, words that could mean quite a lot of things. And so the reader wants to know more. They want to know, what do you mean? Is this true? And so then the second sentence backs up that statement. So you'll actually see this pattern quite a lot in press releases. The next linking technique is where we use paraphrasing. And paraphrasing is words like this, that, those, they. It's where the sentence, the first sentence is just, it just introduces the topic, but then the sentences after that use words like they. Can you see how I've got the italics there? And it kind of expands on the topic, but without repeating a big long phrase. So in this sentence here, the word they, who does that refer to? Who does the word they refer to in that sentence?
The Caritas Australia, as well as the supporters, that thousands of supporters.
Yeah,
so.
Good. Yeah, that's right. So instead of mentioning all of those people all over again, we can just use one word, they, to kind of continue on that thread of the idea. If we had to add another sentence on the end of that, so what might you start with? So that sentence ends with the idea of Project Compassion, the world's poor. So if you had to use the paraphrasing technique to add another sentence onto that, what might you write, for example? Tricky question.
Would it be could we write something like this will be ongoing, maybe an annual event?
Yeah.
Or
good. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it could be anything, but that's a great response.
Is it also possible
Yeah,
to write to mention the the recipients of this 11.57 million?
Yes.
If it's
you could
already been
certainly do
established.
that. Yeah. So you could say the beneficiaries of this funding can expect, improved health, treatment, education, or whatever it is. Yeah, exactly. Good. So you could expand on a couple of different things there. So that is the technique that we use for when we're gradually sort of expanding on something. And then the third technique that we use is signposting. So when we need to make a more abrupt transition between points, we might say something like furthermore to show that we're adding an idea, or we might say for example, or we might say however to show contrast or something like that. So let's have a look at how these all work together. Let's have a look at how these work together. I'm just going to go back to our slides for a minute. Okay, so here is a little excerpt that uses two of the linking techniques interchangeably. I'll give you a hint. Statement and support isn't one of them. So let's have a look at this one. So the first bolded connection here, the program, what type of linking technique can you see there? Would it be a paraphrasing or a signposting technique? And I'll give you a hint. There's a pronoun. Paraphrasing. Good. Okay, and the next one, with this study. So we can see our pronoun there, this. What type of link is that? Another paraphrasing one. And here we've got something different. Although early maths achievement has been linked, blah, blah, blah. So what type of link can we see there with that one word, although? Signpost. Good. So you can see that we use those linking techniques interchangeably depending on what the effect is that you want, whether you're gradually expanding on a picture or whether you need a more abrupt sort of transition. So we want to pay attention to those devices in our writing. Here are a couple of signposting terms. So when you're adding on to the argument, you might say in addition or also or further. Contrasting, you might say however or although. Giving examples, we use a lot more terms other than just for example. We might say generally or usually, in this case. Emphasizing, and then causal signposts. So we use a lot of different terms for our signposts in English. And again, I'm happy to share these slides with you afterwards if you'd find this helpful. Okay, we won't do this one. I'm just going to skip ahead there. We are going to start writing your press release. And I think now is probably, it's 10 past 12. We were going to take a lunch break at 12. So what we're going to do, this is a little bit of solo writing time, and we can continue after lunch. So you have all, so a few moments ago, you worked on a fictional exercise. I gave you that tourism exercise, but for most of the morning, you were planning your own press releases that you could, you could feasibly send out this week. So you've already determined your ideal news angle. You've thought about some keywords, or you will think about them more tomorrow. I believe you've written a message statement and you've got your mind map of supporting points. So have a go at writing your press release. And I think that in the next 20 minutes, you should be able to get through the N and the E and maybe to the W. You might even get a little quote. I'm going to put you in breakout rooms so that you can We'll do just the same breakout rooms as before. I'll put you in breakout rooms so that if you have questions for each other, you can kind of bounce ideas. You can say, hey, Nazmi, do you have a better word for this? Or I'm stuck on that. And if two people finish early, you can even screen share and get feedback. I will also pop in and give you feedback on your work. And you can send me some more of your work during lunch. So I'm happy to give people individual feedback over the lunch break. Okay, so I'm going to open those breakout rooms now. We'll go till 12:30 and then we'll continue when we get back from lunch.
Halo. Suruh sambung yang artikel tadi sejak ni.
You tadi unmute. Adik, you cakap dah clear, dah kedengaran tadi.
Iya kak.
Oh,
I said, apa itu? Sambung saja kan artikel yang.
Oh, usulnya sambung.
Oh, tapi nya tadinya one that you can one that you're writing a press release on your own katanya for future event. Bah Rina lagi buat pasal untuk apa ni namanya for World Oceans Day. Lagi bata.
World Ocean Day.
Bulan 6. 8 hari bulan.
Ada. Doi mana lagi ada lagi happen.
Anda katanya lagi kan fisheries bah.
Ya, mana ada, kena ambil alih je sudah oleh diver oceanic apa. Diorang sudah si apa?
Tahsin.
Diver ni.
Tahsin.
Apa kata namanya? Ya kalau yang apa?
Yang di Serasa?
Chinese atau
apa yang di Serasa?
Oceanic ba di Serasa.
Tunggu, Oceanic Quest ke? Ataupun ni Divers?
Ni Divers ke lah?
Tahsin. Dia tukar nama sudah.
Apa namanya?
Tahsin.
Oh, rebrand dah.
Indah, Tahsin namanya Islam.
Namanya Islam bah.
Ya kahwin sama ni. Sama Ani bukan Ani. Anak.
Dengannya tu kan tu kafaten.
Siapa?
Dengannya tu je.
Dia bisnes kali tu.
Dengannya yang
Keraja.
Siapa namanya?
Anna namanya. Lawa sweet.
Si Anna. Oh, ya. Oh, ya tu yang handle masa ni. Mana lagi kami?
Tapi tadi tak ada involve.
Tadi tidak, mana ada involve. Nada, durang sudah bah. Pasal RTB durang sudah dengan durang lah benarnya. Tapi RTB macam ada sokannya task durang pelang aktivitinya lah. Durang punya program atau.
So jabatan dah ada buat apa-apa?
Nada, mana ada. So far nada.
Yuk teh holiday.
Sekarang kena tanya oleh SUT kah?
So far ada pelang ada. Pasal diorang sudah take over kan. Macam diorang menyalam atau lah kata ni involve lah saja. Tapi diorang sendiri yang handle macam itu. Kira men-support lang saja macam itu.
Share saja sekarang kalau ada posternya ke apa.
Kalau ada dapat di-share lah, tapi kalau tidak ada peluang tu. Kami minta info lah dah dorang.
Whatever activities that going to be doing, then dapat tani help promote because we need a lot more people doing clean up kan.
Ya tah.
Apa lagi? So now what we gonna do again? 20 minutes banyak cerita.
Saya tahu.
Kali ini buat artikel baru.
Apa?
Ini buat artikel baru.
Artikel baru.
Kan sambungan tadi kan.
Entah ha. TCP punya cerita saja lagi. Tourism sudah.
Awak
Caranya.
pakai saja yang hari itu kita
Awak?
Oh, ya mana sama gurunya.
Jangan tak.
Tunggu dulu, mencari dulu.
Allah.
Yang hari itu so pakai saja. Nada je orang tahu tu. Kata ni kita tahu.
I've never seen it, so I've never seen it before. Ada tu report writing, but is it similar the press release ni yang this one and the one yang dari UK tu? Is it similar, sama?
Sama kah? Rasa
Sama pulang.
But
Sama.
makan
Bunyinya
kah
macam
Patrin?
mana dapat, bang?
ada bilang
Aninda dah with the social media atau last week the one that I attended, yang kawatin attend tu kan Rina apa ni namanya yang ada sama itu gini ni who what when where why how. Yang lain ya Indah dah, yang lain semua ni semua baru.
Yang piramid itu macam lain lah. Sama kah?
Oh, yang piramid itu baru pulang.
Tu
Yang suruh masukkan ni kan arah sini piramid. Macam mana tu guys? I didn't take notes tadi. I was listening. I took notes tapi somehow entah hilang di arah my pad ni.
Ya tak
pakai
tu.
saja kita punya
Lain kali pakai
Yep,
kaya
guys.
atas.
Share screen. Benar senang. I share screen. Hang on. Okay.
Azan bazan. Suruhnya bekerja tu lagi.
Bila kan breaknya ni? Confused.
12.30.
Oh, burung. Lagi lama tu. Ada.
Dah belum? Okay. Can you enlarge on your side, please?
Better?
Lagi. What's that black image on the side? Tertutup.
That black image is us.
Oh, so sasar tiao. Okay.
boleh ada meeting.
Okay. Ada?
Ada.
Ini je nak pakai ni saja.
Come in. Sekejap ah. Yes kak?
Tem. Ano ba? Dato ni kena jemput. Katang.
Sekejap.
Pakai ni saja, Frank.
Ini saja.
Sekejap kamu ah. Out sekejap.
Okey, tu kapten. Okay.
Apa kak? Dato kena jemput.
Ini saja kata dipakai. Mana ada yang menyuruh tu kan?
Video.
Kira baru, Pak.
Dato kena.
Baru ni. Baru last week.
Masjid Kelan.
Benar tu baru-baru.
Oh, baru last week ya.
Panas.
Sekali.
Kita ada cuti.
Ni tanya aku.
Lepas tu,
Biasanya kalau Dato kena jemput.
nanti 5 hari bulan.
5 hari bulan menyambung kan ya?
Menyambung.
Orang-orang
Wow. Berapa hari kita?
Last year mana
Lanjut saja.
Haji Tunis
7 days.
jemput di
7 days.
Sungai Kambun kan.
Jadi tahap.
Jadi dah.
Sungai Kambun.
Dia sudah tanya Dato ya. Siapa ya?
Berambut bal semua orang ya.
Banyak arah kami juga.
Tanya orang-orang kemana kita.
Kalau dah berambut, dah bahagia rasanya.
Awak?
Mesti.
Mesti juga.
Everything rush.
Orang kita kena jemput. Dan
Lagi mau itu bandar. Sambung-sambung bang. Memang ni habis raya maksudku masih raya ni masih ni juga. Pada muda beraya.
Pasal I think dia terclash school holiday tu juahan.
Oh ya.
Masa raya.
Oh, benar.
Kita expect dari kementerian.
Atau pulang tu berinya ya
Macam tu saja.
apa ni?
Macam
orang
menyambung cuti.
Aku tanya Sungai Kambun.
Dirintilah ke hotel.
Mana?
I think orang dah berani juga kan ya. Dah berani macam celebrate hari raya tu. It's just only family bah. Kita macam mana?
Dan jemput orang lain.
Kita menyambutnya.
Pegawai dari tangan.
Sama.
Sudah kabar ni aku tahu. Ini kita tanya.
Tapi ya
Kalau nyenuk dan pegawai kan.
tanya
20
kira
kas
down to
saja.
earth lah.
Chemistry.
Kalau dulu
ya.
Bukan ni ya.
macam mana? Tahu apa bezanya?
Kata ni seorang ni balas ya.
Mana lah?
Chemistry.
Yang piramid terbalik atasnya apa tadi?
Aku tahu pasal ada potong
terbalik kan?
Ani nak use explanation.
Buat ratu pukul berapa? Bila minta tercara. Sekali aku tanya lah. Aku cari nombor telefon.
Explanation apa tadi? Explanation. Oh ada tadi.
Ada tu.
Webs and special. Apa yang special ni?
Lihat dulu sekali.
Special, spesifik. Apa yang spesifik?
Ada.
Aku pun ada. Lupa tadi mana tadi ah? Ya menyimpan ah. Cache berapa tu ah? Kata?
Yang baru aja tadi.
Let me check.
Yo, I can't open my PDF.
Ada. Ni news, explanation, words and specific.
Words. Words ka?
Words. W-O-R-D-S. Words specific. Tapi macam area tu kata ni macam terbalik wah. Ada kata Fan. Yang kata ni ingat kita. Perasaanku piramidnya macam terbalik wah yang kata ni tu ah.
Oh yang ada terbalik je kan? Ani terbalik. Ani inverted katanya.
Oh. Ya tak.
Tahu juga kalau ya.
Boleh sudah chat arahnya ya wala ni. Gagas lagi tak?
Menjemput pegawai-pegawainya berapa orang?
Ada ni sekarang.
Kita kan patutnya
tak lagi ada ni.
Ada dia.
Surat lagi untuk tapi dalam surat itu dari mana mas?
Tapi I think Australia punya artikel jumpa yang
ini juga suka cerita untuk menjemput.
Macam kalau ada simple saja kan, ani macam lurus kan.
Jangan sampai kita ni.
Yang UK simple saja. Ani
simple ya. Simple. And straightforward lagi. Kalau UK.
Jemputnya kan ikan.
Dia tak selalu jawab yang dia tanyanya which one-nya tapi macam alah lagi jawapan kau ni.
Dia masukkan yang mungkin
it's okay bah. Apa juga nya ketani. Tapi kan macam lain bah. Macam turang tu panjang lagi tu. Macam apa tu macam paranya tu diputusnya macam satu sentence saja. Habis tu second para lagi satu sentence je macam mana
dia takut macam mungkin dah tu
macam itu masa yang UK tadi kan ajar supaya compact saja compact tapi padat pendek tapi detail macam tu macam berjela-jela lah
ani panjang ya aku baca pun belum habis ya udah dia macam mana ceritanya ni benar. Yang tadi kita share saja yang kita buat.
Siapa lagi
yang tourism tu share saja WhatsApp. Ada WhatsApp. Yes. Yang ada pasal tourism.
You can ask.
Just in case saja. Tapi Ani dah pelang banyak involve-nya. Saya tahu macam Ani banyak mengajar lah.
Azni.
Ini Sydney Uni Bandar.
Pengiran Fadli.
Macam mana?
Kan.
Kalau kementerian saja. Pegawai kanannya.
12:30 kan katanya ni break.
Ada cuma ada dari mana? Nombor telefon.
1 jam kah?
Bertelefon aku masih
baru.
Siapa yang menyanyi surat tu?
Tapi berapa minit ni ya? Breaknya tadi ya pendengaran. 20 minit je. 20 minit kah?
Macam 30 minit sekali ya?
Minit-minit saja.
Dah batang lah.
Ada sudah.
Ridwan.
Ada.
Then.
Hi.
Nice.
Pegawai.
Wow. Great. That's looking really clear. So that's your intro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So make sure that in the first sentence that you do state that it's an art competition, because I gathered that because it's a drawing, but make sure that you give the proper name of the, it should have an it should have the proper name in it.
You mean at the first sentence?
Yeah. Yeah.
We put it here in the art competition like that?
Yes. So now, did you write that earlier today?
No. To be honest, no.
I see. Okay. So, I mean, it's a good lead paragraph. It gives all the invitation. So there's like a 50-year golden jubilee. There's a competition, and it's about creating a bit of a vision for the future. So it's 3 really nice themes. So I would sort of say what the name of the competition is. Then the next paragraph, so that's your N paragraph. Remember NEWS of the inverted pyramid?
Oh, okay.
Yep, so we've got NEWS. So that paragraph there is a good N paragraph because it says what's happening, shows the news angle, and it shows the points you're going to make. So then your E expanding on it, you need a couple of paragraphs expand on the 50th Jubilee. So what is the 50th Jubilee? Another one expanding on the idea of the competition. Have you done this before? How many participants do you expect it will attract, or competitors? And then why are we imagining the future? Are these ideas going to? I guess it is, because it's town and country planning, so that's actually very on brand. And but it would be interesting to know whether the department's going to do anything with those drawings.
Stephanie, can I ask about the NEWS words?
Yeah. What it means?
Yeah.
Okay. So what it means? So if you look in your workbook, you'll see that little inverted pyramid. So N equals news. So this is the news angle, and like I said, I can see the news angle there quite clearly, and that's one paragraph. Then E is explanation of the key points made in N paragraph. So this is usually going to be a few paragraphs. Yeah. And then W equals words or spokesperson. And S equals specifics.
Oh, okay. Understand.
Yeah.
What is specifics again? Isn't it not explained in the E part?
It's just like non-newsy but important background information. Yeah. So it's just background information. So for example, you might say in the last paragraph here, because you're talking about the Golden Jubilee, so you might say, it's actually about the Department of Town and Country Planning. So you might say something like, the Department of Town and Country was founded in 1972. I'm guessing it has been instrumental in developing this type of infrastructure or urban landscape. And maybe it is now in the process of writing its new strategy, something like that. Just some general background information about the Department of Town and Country Planning in the case of this press release.
All right.
Okay. But I was going to close the breakout rooms now,
Okay.
And we'll meet back in the main room. And yeah, and then we can have a quick chat before you head out for lunch.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Habis.
Okay, so that's given you a start on your press release, and some of the groups had questions. Now, one of the groups, I've dropped into your group before and not been able to make contact. So if you do have questions, if you're from that group and you have a question and I didn't visit you, do reach out with any questions. So it is almost 12:35 now. We'll take a 1 hour lunch break. What I would really encourage you to do is try to, so go take your lunch break, eat up your lunch, all of that. Try to come back from lunch 15 minutes early and just do a little bit more work on your press release, because I would love to see a few more of those in the early stage of the afternoon. And I'd love to give you each feedback, okay? But other than that, we will start back online at 1:35 Brunei time. So thanks, everyone. It's been a really busy morning. You've got a lot done. So go take a well-deserved break.
So it's 1:45 or
1:35.
1:35.
1:35.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay then.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.